I'm Jeanne Fuchs, and I'm here to talk about books and book groups. I've always loved to read, and when I was about 6, my parents gave me a set of books called My Book House, which was 12 volumes of classic things for children at that time. This was a long time ago. And they ranged from, reading at age 1 to age 12 and all. So I read them all that first year before I was 7. So my dad said, we got problems here. We're gonna have to buy some books for this kid. So it got worse, and I've been a bookaholic ever since. You're born a reader, I think. It's not acquired, it's a disease that you inherit. But my dad was a reader, he loved to read. As a journalist, I worked for a couple of newspapers in New England. One of them was the Lowell newspaper, I forget the exact name. But it was kind of hard to communicate. I had to phone in the stories, and they occasionally came in garbled, and were printed garbled, unfortunately. But the other one was the Assabet Valley Beacon, which was in Maynard, Massachusetts, and it served Acton and Concord in that area. And I worked for the Mount Lebanon News when we were living in Mount Lebanon, a suburb of Pittsburgh. You were paid by the length of the story, so the longer the story, the more money you were paid. And we weren't paid a lot. It was like 10 cents an inch or a nickel an inch or something. But at the end of the week, if you had, 200 inches, there was a little money to spend. We lived on Sanibel for a little while, for 5 years actually. And there weren't any book groups over there that I knew of. And I was kind of lonesome for one I belonged to in Colorado. So I went to the librarian, who at the time was Pat Allen over in Sanibel. And I said, are there any book groups around here that I should know about? And she said, no, but I'll take your name. And if anybody else shows up for a book group, I'll call you. So about 3 days later, a woman named Jo Fernandez showed up and said, are there any book groups around here? And Pat Allen said, yes, there will be. So she put the two of us together, and we got a book group started working out of the Sanibel Library. But it was always big. Then when I came over here, same process, talked to Marilyn Hooper, who was the librarian at the time, and she said, no, but you should meet Sally Soule, and she's going to do a booth at the, it was some volunteer fair that they had in the church. This was about 10 years ago at least. So I found Sally, and this was really noisy. I remember this very clearly. She was at some volunteer table. I said, you want to do a book group? I hear you're interested. And she said, yes, yes. She's a strong Vermonter. So when things got quieter, we got together and put the word out through the library, really, who was interested. And we got probably 10 or 12 women, and that was it, off and running. February of '08. Our book group is of the discussion kind, where we take turns picking a book and being the discussion leader and asking questions and listening to what people thought about the book. We all buy the book or get it from the library. So when we get together, essentially we have all read it. And so we're able to, it's not like a review where you go and they tell you about it. We're all participants. So we all talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, characters, plot, so forth. The first book was this one, Queen Noor. And she was, at the time, the Queen of Jordan. And she wrote when her husband died, and she was no longer, she's still queen, but anyway, not the reigning queen. She wrote this memoir, which is a fascinating book. She wrote it probably 12 years ago, but it's just one of my favorites and happened to be my choice for the first meeting of our group. This is the latest one. We did this just last month. It's by Lisa C., and it's called The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. And it's about, oddly enough, it's way off base, a tribe of Chinese on the Laos border who pick tea. Essentially, I'm really simplifying it. But complicated story about the lives of these people, and the one woman who has a child out of wedlock, which is really bad for this tribal group. And the child is conveyed to the United States by an American couple who come to an orphanage and so forth. Our next book, this is next week, we have a meeting, is Dear Madam President. And this is written by Jennifer Palmieri. She's addressing this as a series of recommendations to the next president, Madam President, we think. So anyway, it's advice to a woman who's a president, who has to function differently than a male president, of course. One of the really good things about our book club, and I presume it's all the same, is the variety of personalities, or the variety of members who have different backgrounds. We have in our group, we have a teacher, we have people that were in government work, we have a couple women who never worked at all. They've been moms forever, but they're all intellectually on top of things. So we have one new member who lives here in Oakmont, who is, I must say, a bigger reader than I am. She has read everything, and it's wonderful to talk to her because she knows either the author or the work that comes up, so she adds a special tone to it. Others don't read that much, but they read really carefully, and they read into the depth of the book. I read fast, and I'm a little more superficial, and if I'm not enjoying this section, I'll skip it. But some are very dutiful, and so when they come to discuss it, they know the details. When we have a really good discussion, and it brings out some interesting topics, a lot of times we'll go home and read the book again. So I missed that. Oh yeah, that was in the end, and I never quite got to the end or something. Really good.